IBO World Champion, La Bella Bestia, coming to you to show my appreciation for the ring IQ. So if you haven't already,
get guard, but
wow,
Howard,
look at the strength.
follow and subscribe Ring IQ and check out the relay where they cover today's top boxing news.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this per tweet from ESPN Ringside. Jamel Herring and Shakur Stevenson have both signed contracts for their junior lightweight title fight on ESPN and ESPN Plus, sources told Mike Coppinger. The fight will take place on October 23rd at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Got a lot of thoughts on this fight, I do. When you think about the matchup, it's very intriguing because it features two educated southpaws who are also jabbers.
Two guys who know how to stick and move.
Jamel Herring, the reigning champion, is approximately 11 years older than young Shakur Stevenson. He's got his grown man strength, and experience really is on his side. He has faced better quality of competition in Denis Shafikov, Masayuki Ito, Lamont Roach, Farrell Crampton.
He's got more signature wins than Shakur does.
Shakur's a bright young fighter who exhibits a high ceiling, but as it stands, he's amassed little more than just a buzz. He has no signature victories, no signature wins over any solid fighters. Not yet. Jamel Herring himself said, "I'm simply excited. Not too many words. Just grateful, headlining another big fight. These are the moments you dream of when you were coming up. Watching your idols, hashtag motivation, hashtag Semper Fi."
It's an excellent fucking fight.
I've talked about this, how the edge in experience and even the edge in power, it has to go to Jamel Herring, who's 11 years young Shakur's senior. However,
What's been nagging me about all of this?
what's been in the back of my mind the whole time that this fight has been underway, the whole time that this fight has been a hot topic and a talking point, is that Jamel Herring, he's in his mid-30s, whereas Shakur, young Shakur, he's very spry, 24 years old. You have to wonder, if the fight is close,
Who the judge is going to give it to?
can the reigning champion Jamel Herring get a fair decision against Shakur Stevenson when it's Shakur that has more upside? It's Shakur that the promotion might actually be behind. I mean, this is a legitimate question.
I'm no wide-eyed optimist.
Not fucking naive, and you shouldn't be either. If Jamel Herring does enough to make it close, can he get a fair decision from the judges when it's young Shakur that the promotion might be behind? I say that to say this. A lot of people think Shakur's just going to go in there and outclass Jamel Herring, and I don't see it that way. I see Jamel Herring as being the most formidable fighter young Shakur Stevenson would have fought. And on the heels of that Nick Thalia performance, a performance that had virtually no wow factor,
He looked basic.
Shakur Stevenson did. He couldn't have it all his way with Nick Thalia, and Nick Thalia is a rather unheralded opponent as opposed to Jamel Herring, the reigning champion, who I consider to be a lot more formidable. If you couldn't have it all your way with Nick Thalia, how are you going to have it all your way with Jamel Herring?
It's not like Shakur's some big puncher or anything.
He's not going in there with these guys and knocking their heads clean off their shoulders. Shakur's a young, gifted fighter that exhibits a high ceiling, but what he doesn't exhibit is concussive punching power. What he does have on his side is speed.
Yeah, he's got that.
But even his speed didn't lend itself to his last outing, his last performance. Shakur Stevenson looked quite basic against a very basic guy in Nick Thalia. And if you think about Shakur's fights, which one of them was a signature fight? Which one of them was a signature performance?
He hasn't actually had one yet.
I think about these things and I think to myself, well, what if Jamel Herring goes in there and holds his own? Moreover, what if he does more than just hold his own? If the fight is close between these two educated southpaws, can you trust these judges to award Jamel Herring a fair decision?
Can you really?
When you got two guys that really know how to use that lead hand and put it to work, and they're fighting out of the same stance, they're not going to afford each other very many opportunities to capitalize on.
Neither guy is known for throwing caution to the wind.
Somebody's going to have to. Presumably, that would be the younger fighter that has more to prove. Presumably, that would be Shakur Stevenson, who's likely going to try to get as aggressive as he can.
He didn't get aggressive with the last guy.
Well, that's the thing. He wasn't fighting for a world title with the last guy, whereas this fight, this could be Shakur Stevenson's signature fight in his own mind. For that reason, he might so decide to step his game up, look better than he did the last time. I mean, there are intangibles, the psychology of the fighter, how he views one fight as opposed to how he views another, and the preparation for it, the incentive to go above and beyond. If any fight in recent memory provided such an incentive for young Shakur Stevenson, it would be this fight with Jamel Herring.
So maybe he'll show up in rare form.
Yeah, and maybe the cucumbers taste better pickled. In the back of my mind, I still find myself wondering, if Jamel Herring does enough, just enough, to retain the WBO super featherweight title, are the judges going to recognize that, and are they going to let him keep it?
It's a legitimate question.
I'm just giving it to you straight, because it's the only way I know how to give it to you. After many years being a boxing fan, I've grown quite cynical. And I'm no wide-eyed optimist, I'm not. Jamel Herring has every reason in the world to go in there and do his best to make it decisive, make it emphatic, if he wants to hold on to that WBO title. Because those judges, for that fucking fight with that fucking fighter, they might be looking for any and every reason to take it from him.
And B-Hop obviously switching topics. Earl Spence, he had a tour retina. He had to get pulled out of that fight against Pacquiao. What do you make of all that?
Only thing I can do is listen what you said to me and listen what I've heard. But that's conversation, and that's what they said happened. I mean, I don't know if it's true or not true. I like Spence. I respect Spence. I know he always ready. But I just think, I just have some suspicions about this whole thing, to be honest with you. Because I just think that the way it manifests and came out suddenly real fast and no one knew it before, is to me just, and I've been around a long time, and I understand certain things that's said because of other things. I'll just say stay tuned if you hear something else other than what everyone was given or was told. I think it's more to the story than what it is. But if it's true, I just wish him a speedy recovery, but I had to say that first because I want to be the first one that people say, well, what did I know that everybody else didn't know, or what did I know that a few other people did know, but nobody was bold enough and brave enough to say it. And again, if it's the case, then I think we all should see it.
What do you think might be the other issue? Maybe not the eye or...
It could be a lot of issues. It could be business. It could be lack of. It could be a lot of things. I mean, the whole thing is right now is considered, this was been told, and most people probably will believe it, and most people will never even dare to question it or say, well, give me little details of it.
I don't presume to know what it is that Bernard Hopkins knows. I'm not on that side of the business.
I don't know what he heard.
I don't know what assumptions and inferences Bernard Hopkins in his own mind is making in reference to Errol Spence Jr. pulling out of that Manny Pacquiao fight. All I know is Bernard Hopkins, like many others, is suspicious as to what's really going on here because he's not taking the story at face value just because that's how it's being printed. The timing of all of this is rather impeccable, and I told you guys that before.
I told you.
At a time when the people over there at the PBC could not finalize a deal with Canelo Alvarez, this happens. And you ask me what the relevance of that situation is to this one. Well, they hope to lock Canelo Alvarez in for more than just one fight, more than just one Fox pay-per-view, and they were unable to do that.
Okay.
This situation happens, and it creates a separate scenario where, you know what, you might actually have Manny Pacquiao for more than just one fight because he's fighting Ugas now. And if this injury is all a hoax, if all of this is staged, then he can also fight Errol Spence Jr. later. So you end up with 2 Manny Pacquiao pay-per-views instead of just one.
He's got to win for that to happen, though.
He's got to beat Yordenis Ugas next week and reclaim that WBA super title for that scenario to even come into play. And we don't actually know that Manny Pacquiao, at 42 years old, 2 years removed from the sport, we don't know that he has what it takes to do that he still has what it takes to beat a guy like a Yordenis Ugas.
But let's say that he does.
Let's say that next week, Manny Pacquiao pulls this off and reclaims that WBA super title, what you then have to look at, what you then have to pay attention to, is the amount of time it takes for Errol Spence Jr. to recover from this quote-unquote injury. It's important to distinguish a detached retina from a torn one, as one injury is a lot more severe than the other. One of those injuries is a career-ending injury, and one is not. A detached retina?
That's bad.
You're finished. But a torn retina? Well,
That allows for a speedier recovery.
and that would allow a career to continue. The career of Errol Spence Jr. Depending on how all of this wraps itself up, however, the timing of it all, that's what people might find suspicious. You suffer this injury
Right.
in enough time that you pull out of the fight, they find Manny a replacement opponent, doesn't take him long at all, and you still manage to heal up in time to do a pay-per-view with Manny Pacquiao.
Oh, so you end up doing the fight anyway.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Bit too convenient for some, definitely too convenient for others, if that's how the cookie crumbles.
Because now the PBC gets too many Pacquiao pay-per-views instead of just one.
Manny left the island. You have to understand that. His return to PBC's Isolation Island is pure happenstance. It's only because everything else that Manny Pacquiao tried to do didn't work out. The initial plan was not to fight Errol Spence Jr.
Manny's return to the island.
That came only after the Conor McGregor and Mikey Garcia and Terence Crawford's fights fell apart. It's pure happenstance, and it couldn't have come at a more opportune time for the PBC, who need big names
And big pay-per-views.
to get Fox to renew.
I'm always suspicious about things coming out of nowhere. And I know most people are gullible, and they would eat it, and they would take it, and they would repeat it. Like, I don't repeat anything. I'm conscious of repeating anything that that I don't have more to it. And I got other questions.
This interview, which was conducted by Little Giant Boxing, and I'll leave the link to it in the description box.
This ain't Joe Blow with a YouTube channel he was interviewing.
This isn't a discussion between me and you and what we think about this entire situation. No. Little Giant Boxing was talking to Bernard fucking Hopkins. And Bernard's questions and his queries, they sound a lot like mine and yours, don't they?
What, you gonna tell him you don't know shit about boxing?
Bernard, he's not sold. He's not convinced. He's making his own inferences, his own assumptions, based on whatever it is he does know.
He's suspicious.
When this news first broke, anyone who questioned its integrity, its legitimacy, the legitimacy of the injury, they were met with outrage from Errol Spence Jr.'s supporters. Many others who asked, why would Errol Spence Jr. lie about something like that? This could be a potentially career-ending injury. Come to find out, the severity of Errol's injury isn't a detached retina, just a torn one.
So put your violins away, alright?
So you can wake the fuck up and smell the coffee. Boxing is a dirty business. Always has been.
Oh, you think fighters don't lie about injuries?
After Tony Harrison's upset decision win over Jermel Charlo, didn't Tony Harrison threaten to pull out of their rematch by faking an injury? Several years ago, weren't there widespread rumors that the real reason Billy Joe Saunders pulled out on Martin Murray the first time they were supposed to meet, the first time they were supposed to fight years ago, was due to poor ticket sales?
But he faked his injury.
Tyson Fury, before going on his mental health hiatus ahead of what was supposed to be the Klitschko rematch, he suffered some kind of an ankle injury, and that was met with scrutiny, because a lot of people really felt he just didn't want to have that fight.
And he never did.
I don't know who these fucking guys and girls have been talking to, the way they think the sport of boxing is all sunshine and rainbows, but let me tell you something. Faking an injury...
That's not outside the realm of possibility.
And if the why is what you're stuck on, if the why is what you're wondering about, it's simple. You know, the Spence versus Pacquiao pay-per-view was available for purchase before Errol Spence Jr. pulled out of that fight. You do realize that. So some of those people out there that were interested in seeing this thing, they might have already made that purchase, not realizing several days later, Errol would pull out.
By that time, Fox has got their money.
It's the old bait and switch is what it is. They bait you to make the purchase with the Spence fight, you not realizing they're going to switch him out and put Ugas in there instead. And they're doing this because they need to give Fox big fights, big pay-per-views. They need a big name like Manny Pacquiao to do more than just a one-off with them on Fox.
Especially since things didn't work out with Canelo.
Oh, I know that Canelo Alvarez has since come back to the table, and I know that they're revisiting the Caleb Plant fight, but if by some chance things don't work out between Canelo and the PBC, and they can't get Canelo into some kind of multi-fight arrangement, multi-fight deal, well, this could be interpreted as a contingency. This could be interpreted as a plan B. Maybe we can't get Canelo for more than one fight, but we've got Manny.
We might have him for 2 fights.
Oh, all of these bleeding hearts. They don't think for a second the powers that be in the sport of boxing would pull a fast one on them. No, they'd never do that. Not at a time when the Fox deal is set to expire, and the people at Fox, they have the option to renew. They reserve the right to extend the deal to 1 more year, but that is at their discretion. You don't think that matters because of how fucking perceptive you are?
Well, excuse my healthy fucking skepticism.
And excuse Bernard's, because Bernard, unlike me and you, he knows a thing or two about this business, inside and outside of those ropes, and he's not buying it. He's not taking it at face value, so why are you?
I know they're gonna start attacking him real soon.
The proverbial wave of outrage, insults, slurs, and racial epitaphs geared towards Bernard Hopkins' healthy skepticism, oh, that wave is set to arrive shortly. I have no doubts they're going to call him all sorts of names.
All to distract you from the questions that he's asking.
All to divert your attention to pointless arguments with Errol Spence Jr.'s sycophants, PBC fans, and Haymanites.
That cult of mutants.
I'm just giving it to you straight. It's the only way. I know how to give it to you. And when you see this many pieces moving on the board, it's not for no reason. That's all I'm telling you. This is a crucial year for the PBC moving forward. They need Fox to renew that deal.
And they need something to offer them.
Quasi-retired fighters like Keith Thurman and semi-active pros like Gary Russell Jr., that simply won't do. You got a joint pay-per-view coming up with ESPN for that Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder fight. But even if that pay-per-view does well, will it actually get you the money that you lost on the last one? And even if it does do well, whatever it does, you've got to split that with Top Rank and ESPN.
So what do you have to offer Fox?
You didn't finalize that deal with Canelo Alvarez, did you? It's not done. Not yet. And if by some chance you can't iron out that deal and he decides to go the other way, decides to fight someone else, or he does fight Caleb Plant in a one-off, and no more.
If he don't sign a multi-fight deal with you,
what do you have in terms of an incentive for Fox to renew? Because you're going to need something. You know, Fox don't actually need to stay in the business of boxing to drum up ratings. They can always cook up another shitty sitcom.
Bring in better numbers than Kofi versus Rice.
Do you think that kind of programming is pivotal towards Fox's bottom line? Fox is going to be okay with or without the PBC.
But is the PBC going to be okay without Fox?
I'm just telling you, there's more to the sport of boxing than meets the eye, inside and outside of those fucking ropes.